Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Enlightenment Through Understanding and Wisdom show with your host, Jacob Strong. It is Sunday, May 25th at approximately 9:12 a.m. And today we're going to be going over um, a lot of stuff. So this might be a long episode, I'm not sure, but we'll just go till we're content. But basically, what we're going to do is we're going to try and navigate through how what changes with a person. Like, there's some people who are just mentally ill. They are narcissists, right? And then there are some people who do not choose to be narcissistic, but begin to exhibit irritability and even exhibit narcissistic traits or bipolarism. And so we're going to talk about some of the things that can be diagnosed um, and then overlooked through physical health changes. So, so let's just dive right in here. And again, I want to thank all of you for joining me this morning, and it really means a lot to me that people are trying to improve their mental health and bring awareness to this epidemic that we are facing. So anyway, um, so just to give you kind of an example, if a person comes in and says they're anxious, um, a psychologist who also is not familiar with physical health conditions that can cause anxiety can actually diagnose a patient with anxiety and then put them on medication. Um, and the same thing can happen if a person comes in and says, I'm sad all the time. A psychologist who doesn't understand that there might be an underlying physical condition can diagnose them with depression. Or maybe the client will just come in and say they don't feel like themselves anymore. So they'll um, diagnose them with depression. Or they'll come in and they'll say, my brain is foggy, so they'll diagnose them with dementia. Or my memory is worse than ever, or they'll come in and diagnose them with dementia. Um, a client could come in and say, everything in my body hurts, and they'll diagnose them with a pain disorder. Or someone could come in and say, I can't stay asleep, and they'll diagnose them with depression and anxiety. Or maybe they'll just say, I'm not interested in sex. And then they'll diagnose them with depression. Or they'll say, I just yelled at my kids for no reason. They'll diagnose them with intermittent explosive disorder. They might come in and say, I feel as if I'm going to crawl out of my skin. And they'll diagnose them with panic attacks and anxiety. Maybe they'll say, I feel hungry all the time. So then they'll diagnose them with binge eating disorder. Maybe they'll come in and say, I'm hearing things, psychosis, I can't concentrate, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now I want to go through the seven um, things that influence the brain and mental health, and and then we're going to kind of start going through them one by one to understand um, kind of the symptoms of what that looks like based on the physical condition. So the thyroid regulates energy and mood. It doesn't actually have anything to do with the brain. It's the thyroid. Of course, thyroid's a butterfly-shaped gland at the base of your neck. Cortisol a chemical in your system, helps to manage stress and anxiety. So cortisol levels are very important in your system. DHEA, it helps fight depression and decreases brain inflammation. Now we can notice there that your brain actually um, expands. It actually gets inflamed with a lack or an unregulated DHEA level. Estrogen and progesterone, I probably botched that one up really good. When balanced, it promotes stable moods. So if you're in a good mood, it'll promote that stability. Or if you've had a death in the family, it will promote the stability of grief, right? So so those two things are very important for maintaining that stable mood. Testosterone affects mood as well, motivation, sexuality, and strength. Um, and same thing there. Unregulated testosterone levels can make you, jumpy, can make you irritable, can make you swing one way or the other. Insulin balances blood sugar, um, which is, of course, essential because that's what keeps you from crashing and having a foggy mind and all of that. So those are some of the things, I should say, excuse me, that promote a good, even mental state. And so we're going to start going through some of these and realizing where they fit in and what they cause. So an underactive thyroid can cause fatigue. It can cause difficulty concentrating. It can cause memory problems. It can cause depression. It can cause attentional problems to where a person is not paying attention. It can also cause psychosis, which is interesting because obviously psychosis is something that is commonly diagnosed with mental patients. An overactive thyroid causes sleeplessness and restlessness. It causes anxiety and irritability and racing thoughts and difficulty concentrating and memory problems, depression, mania, as well as psychosis again. So we can see that the thyroid plays a huge part in our mental well-being. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to get into how we can test the thyroid. That's for a doctor. But I strongly encourage anyone who is noticing a change in their body to get their thyroid tested, right? Because it could be something as simple as that. Now, how do you know whether someone is a narcissist, is a confirmed narcissist, or someone who's having a thyroid problem? Because it can cause, like I said, irritability, psychosis, depression, memory problems. Of course, narcissists, have selective memories, and then of course their memories change depending on the situation. Well, the easiest way to tell the difference between a person who has a thyroid problem and the person who is a narcissist. The person who has a thyroid problem or something going wrong with their health, with their body and their health, they will go and see a doctor because they notice a change in their behavior. They notice a change in their system. So they want to seek help. They want to find answers as to why they're feeling the way that they feel. A narcissist is using um, their state of mind, their narcissism, to manipulate you. So they are already fully aware of what they are doing. And so they're not going to go and get help. Because what good would that do? What good would it do for them to go and get help when they already know that all they have to do is change? Well, they wouldn't want to do that because then they couldn't have their cake and eat it too. And again, I'm going to use my marriage as a prime example because that's what I have to go off of, and that's a good example of what this looks like. So again, spring of 16, my ex-wife moved out of my house um, because I offered her a solution to go visit her kids in Tennessee. So she used sex to manipulate me to get what she wanted. Instead of working with me to try and find a solution, she just used her body to get what she wanted. After I was dumb enough to stay with her, well, I should say dumb enough to go back to her, then 1 month after we actually got married, in December of 16, she moved out of my house completely, quote unquote, because God told her to marry her ex-husband and not me, so she couldn't have sex with me anymore. So she was trying to get me to buy her a house in Thompson Falls or in Memphis, Tennessee, and I would just provide her with financial stability. So again, she's using her body, using sex to manipulate. She was fully aware of what she was doing. I begged her to go to counseling and therapy, and I was the only one in marriage counseling by myself the entire time that we were married. She went once, no, excuse me. She went 2 or 3 times, and she didn't really say anything. She didn't want to talk because she knew that what she was doing it on purpose. And then the last time, of course, after she said a few colorful things about the marriage counselor, whom, by the way, she picked out, she opted not to go anymore because, as she put it, the problem was with me, not her. So with that being said, again, that's a deflection of all accountability. Um, and so they take that and they don't want to seek help. They don't want you know, to better their lives. They want to be miserable. They want to use and manipulate people. So that's how you can tell the difference between someone who's looking for help and someone who is not, and how you can label them. So again, so we went over the underactive and overactive thyroid. So now we're going to go over some of the common signs for adrenal fatigue. Again, the adrenal glands. I've had adrenal fatigue my whole life because obviously, being in a very volatile childhood and then marrying a very volatile woman that snapped and was very violent and abusive, I have little to no adrenal glands left. Probably none, actually. But but anyway, so here's the common signs of adrenal fatigue. Decreased ability to withstand stress. That's a big one for me. I almost can't regulate stressful moments at all. So that's why it's important, like I went over in our last episode, or maybe the episode before last. I talked about how an empath, they need to not overextend themselves, especially on the budget end of it, because they can't regulate that stressful, high bills and that sort of stuff. So it's a very common diagnosis amongst empaths and victims of narcissistic abuse, especially. Morning and afternoon fatigue, a lack of stamina. So this is, you know, this one actually doesn't really apply to me. I guess it did, but now it doesn't really apply to me anymore because I'm up 23/7 anyway. So So lack of stamina, lack of, ability to start something and see it through to the end, and have a positive outcome on that. A high blood pressure and a rapid heartbeat. Um, this one probably pertains to me, but I haven't been checked, but I'm not sure. So anyway, so high blood pressure and rapid heartbeat are common signs of adrenal fatigue. So on a personal note, yes, I do have. Um, oh, I forget what it's called, but anyways, it's not a rapid heartbeat, but my heart doesn't have a regulated rhythm. I have arrhythmia. That's right. Anyways, so yes, um, abdominal fat that doesn't go away no matter what you do. This one definitely applies to me. But anyways, mental fog with poor memory and difficulty concentrating. Um, yes, that is another very common sign of adrenal fatigue. So it doesn't matter what you do, your memory is very, very poor and very difficult to concentrate. A low sex drive. Cravings for sweet or salty foods, one or the other, creates an imbalance in your system. Dizziness when getting up from a seated or a prone position. So if you've been laying down for a while, dizziness when you get up. Signs of premature aging. That's a common one as well. A lowered resistance to infection and poor wound healing. So those are all common signs of adrenal fatigue. So empaths especially they don't have to see all of those, but they'll see a good majority of those. And as they work through their trauma, they can gain some of those, gain some of those um, symptoms. They can begin to eliminate some of those symptoms, not gain. They begin to eliminate some of those symptoms. And because they begin to heal. The mind can heal, but it has to be taken out of the fight or flight mode long enough to gain perspective. And once you are able to gain perspective and sit back and relax and realize what's going on, then is when you're able to be able to see what, where you went wrong, as well as where the other, what you ended up getting and involved with. So, so yeah. So moving along here, um, we're going to talk about estrogen dominance and low estrogen. So those two can also have a state of mind symptoms. So estrogen dominance creates mood swings and depression, creates fatigue, sluggish metabolism, low libido, headaches and migraines, brain fog, memory loss, weight gain, especially in the belly and hips, thyroid dysfunction, sleep disturbances, fibrocystic breasts, bloating, vaginal or oral yeast, thrust, heavy bleeding, carbohydrate, cravings. Low estrogen causes mood swings, depression, weepiness, fatigue, heart palpitations, osteoporosis, painful intercourse, brain fog, memory loss, focus problems, weight gain, bladder incontinence and infections, sleep disturbances, pain, and hot flashes. So again, we can see where some of these things physically can cause a state of mind to have symptoms. But again, if we are evaluating a person who is changing, um, and they are getting worse, that doesn't mean that they're a narcissist. The easiest way to tell is, are they willing to get help? Are they willing to go to a doctor and find out what's wrong? If they are willing to get help, to seek help, then they are not a narcissist. They are continuing to find a solution to the problem at hand. I've been in counseling my whole life, off and on my whole life. Well, for the last 20 years, anyways. And, and all I want to do is keep seeking solutions to live a more peaceful life, to live a better life, to help others live a better life, to be more at peace. And, you know, and of course that's why I made this podcast, bring awareness to the corrupt government that's not taking this stuff into consideration. And that's why, again, in courts we need to address narcissism, we need to address mental illness. So common symptoms of low progesterone. That one's a tough word for me. I don't know why, but it is. Anxiety and depression, trouble sleeping, excuse me, fibrocystic breasts, premenstrual syndrome, premenstrual headaches, postpartum depression, and bone loss. That's more common symptoms of that lovely word that I'm not going to repeat because I'll just botch it up again. So now we're moving on to common symptoms of low testosterone. Moodiness, depression, anxiety, difficulty concentrating, lack of motivation, low libido, fatigue, trouble sleeping, erection problems, increased body fat and reduced lean muscle, low bone density, hot flashes, and hair loss. So these are all common denominators for a low testosterone level. And sometimes, particularly with men, it could be caused from a head trauma, or something like that. And few professionals can recognize it, and few professionals can even treat it. And so that's where the individual themselves has to become aware. And again, what's the easiest way to differentiate someone who has a health condition from someone who is a narcissist, is incapable of learning, is someone who seeks the truth, seeks help, and the other one who refuses to take accountability. That's the easiest way. We have common words like dumb and stupid, right? A dumb person is someone who has never been taught something. A stupid person is someone who refuses to learn when being taught. And so when you look at those two very distinct words that have two very different meanings, but they sound the same to a common person. And so the same thing applies when you're looking at someone's mental health. Is there physically something wrong with them? Are they physically having a bad day? We can all have a bad day. But you know, are they taking it out on everyone else? And if they are taking it out on everyone else, then are they getting help? Are they coming back and apologizing for it and then changing their behavior so that they don't hurt the ones that are around them that they love? And so that's the easiest ways um, to differentiate a narcissist with someone who is having a physical problem. So again, of course, there's lots of health books out there, But it's up to us as individuals to go and seek help. And I would say anyone who, especially if you are a couple and you notice something with your spouse, if that spouse is willing to listen and willing to get help, then take them to the doctor and ask the doctor to run some tests on the thyroid, to run some tests on their estrogen levels, to run some tests on their testosterone. And as soon as they start, running those tests, then they'll find out that, that the levels aren't where they're supposed to be, right? Potentially. And then you'll find out, there might be a pill or there might be a solution, which is, stop taking a medication or stop eating a specific food. Maybe you're pre-diabetic and so it's starting to affect you. So stop eating sugars. Um, and so there's all these solutions to the problem for a person who is not a narcissist, but from the outside has the appearance of having some common traits of a narcissist. And so that's the easiest way to tell, are they willing to get help? And then are they willing to take accountability when they do get help? Again, let's look at my marriage as a good example. My ex went to marriage counseling 2 to 3 times. Okay, she told me numerous times that God told her to marry her ex-husband and not me. So she kept using that as leverage to move out of my house, to move out of my bedroom. And so when you look at that as an analogy, and as not as an analogy, but when you look at that, she is refusing to take accountability for her actions in the marriage. And so then you realize, sure, she went to therapy, but all she did was remain quiet. She never brought up what she did in the marriage. She never took accountability for what she did. And so that's the easiest way to tell, again, that someone is a narcissist. And let me tell you, a narcissist will never get better. They will never change. In fact, they will continue to get worse. Because a narcissist seeks supply, they seek validation. So they want to have the appearance to the outside world as the perfect spouse. And so when they have that appearance to the outside world as the perfect spouse, then they can't let anyone see a single flaw. So that's where they will never take accountability. And so the mistakes will add up and they will add up and they will grow and they will get bigger and they will get bigger and they will get more and more. And that's because, now they're having to hide even more. And so it's the snowball effect for them. And then of course this is dangerous for a parent, especially to be a narcissist, because now everything's fair game. It's all about seeking that supply. What can I now get from that child? And so that's a very dangerous place for a parent to be. Is It's a very dangerous place for the child to be is with a narcissistic parent, and mentally, physically, every which way. So, yeah, I think I think I said everything that I wanted to say, and I hope that it made sense to y'all. It's it's comes together for me in my mind, but sometimes it's hard for me to get it out over past my lips, and now I can see it and I can identify it, it's so easy for me now to be able to sit and meet a total stranger on the street corner and within seconds know exactly what they are. And empaths have that ability, and especially they neutralize all um, when they neutralize all biasness. What I mean by that is again, when I was a child, growing up with a very narcissistic dad and having a very wonderful mother, I didn't realize that I had become very gender biased. And I did. I hated men. And so when I met my ex, of course, I didn't ever think that a woman could ever be so, you know, narcissistic. Well, they can and more. And so that's where once I removed all all biasness, doesn't matter what you drive, doesn't matter what kind of vehicle you drive, doesn't matter what you wear, doesn't matter how many times a day you go to church, doesn't matter any of that stuff. I can now recognize social cues. I can recognize your body language as well as as what you are saying as well as your actions. And so that's what I hope to get out to the world so that I can help other empaths recognize why they're drawn to the narcissist and what keeps them in that narcissistic abusive relationship. And they, as an empath, they are seeking love, they're seeking stability, they're seeking um, what they didn't have either as a child or what is comfortable and familiar to them, and they don't even realize it. And so yeah, so with that being said, um, I hope that this show has been a good help to y'all, and I can't wait to talk to y'all. I might make a show tomorrow for Memorial Day, but in case I don't, happy Memorial Day to y'all, and I will talk to you next time. And you have a wonderful day.